Greetings, everyone. I am Pete Pardo from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Albums. Thanks for joining us here on this Sunday morning, or maybe Sunday afternoon or evening, wherever you're from, right? Or whatever day it might be when you happen to stumble upon this particular video. Today, because I was a little short on time this week, I decided to do a band with a very small discography. Only 2 albums. But it's a band I think that has been forgotten about by a lot of people, especially those who are into more progressive side of things, progressive metal specifically. The band is ARK, A-R-K. This is a band that formed and debuted in 1999 with their debut album, self-titled debut album, but by the end of 2001, band pretty much done already. 2 really cool albums, formed, of course, by John Macaluso on drums. Of course, John's done a lot of things over the years. Played with TNT and Yngwie Malmsteen and lots of other people. He's appeared on albums for the last 20 some odd years. Great player. Tore Ostby on guitar from Conception, and Jorn Lande on vocals. Of course, at the time, Jorn, part of the band, also the Snakes. But as we know, Jorn has played on lots of albums, lots of solo records, was in Master Plan for a while. Jorn has done a lot of great stuff over the years. One of the amazing Norwegian vocalists to emerge on the hard rock and metal scene over the last bunch of years. So, technically ARK kind of like a Norwegian band. Of course, you got, Tore from Conception, John, of course, American. And they would also be joined on their second album to kind of fill out the lineup with Randy Coven on bass and Mats Olason on keyboards. But they did have some help on the debut. It's mainly those 3 guys on the debut album, which is this one right here. And also appearing on the album. It's like if you don't read up into it, you'd be wondering who's playing all this stuff. So in addition to Jorn on lead vocals, Tore on guitars, and John on drums percussion, you've got Trond Nagel-Dahl on keyboards on the album. And then you've got Ingar Amlian on bass on one track, Harry Sagstuen saxophone on one track, a little help from Malid Granturd on vocals on one track, and Ole Johnny Lande plays accordion on another track. So I'm assuming most of the bass work on this debut album probably, I guess, handled by Tore and or Trond on the keyboards, right? Because you can hear lots of bass on that debut album. So just the 2 albums, like I mentioned, we've got self-titled ARK, which came out on Sensory Records, Ken Golden's progressive metal label. And then we've got Burn the Sun was the second and final album. And depending on which release you got, this came out at Inside Out, Favorite Nations, right? This was released in different countries and different territories and different labels and whatnot. And that would be the final album, sadly. So really hard to rank these 2. To me, they're both a little different from each other, but they're both excellent and really unlike any other prog metal band going on at the time. So you think late 90s, you're probably thinking, oh, they're probably just kind of like a Dream Theater or a Symphony X clone. And really, that's not the case at all. They really don't sound, maybe in spots, in a couple places, you might hear a little Dream Theater or Symphony X reference. But for the most part, this is all pretty unique stuff and very different because the drums are very much forward. If you're a fan of John Macaluso or you like to hear lots of intricate drumming in a more metal but certainly progressive context, you've come to the right place. Like I said, really hard to rank these. I went back and forth on this ranking here, but ultimately I think I like one just a hair bit more than the other, but that could change at any given time. So I'm going to go with my number 2. In the number 2 spot, I'm going to go with the debut album, ARK. Like I said, 1999, Sensory Records. You have to love drumming to love this stuff. That's the crazy thing about this band. It's I don't think I've ever heard a metal band, and certainly not a progressive metal band, where the drums are so up front in the mix and so much a part of all the arrangements. As in some places, much more than the guitars are. That's crazy enough, right? Burning Down is the first track on here. A great vehicle for John's intricate drumming. It's not an overly heavy song, but rhythmically very complex. You got Jorn's kind of David Coverdale style bluesy hard rock and metal vocals. He sounds amazing on this album. He's either, he can do both camps. He can either do kind of like the bluesy Coverdale type thing, or he can do the more metal, kind of like Ronnie James Dio thing. Kind of fluctuates in between the two. Great, great voice. Torre drops in a shredding solo on this one, and there's even some kind of eerie keyboards in the background. And again, the bass work. There is bass. The bass is generally fairly prominent at times. Again, other than you have the guest on the one track. Who's playing the bass lines? Is it keyboards? Is it Torre playing bass? I'm not really sure. They don't really say, but nicely done. Where the Wind Blows is next. To me, it's like a long lost, but certainly more progressive Whitesnake song. But it's really interesting how both on the first track and on this one, how there's very little riffs going on. There's guitar, of course. It's more in the background than when the solo comes in, it's there. But this is more like you got, the haunting keyboards and the drums are just kind of like really driving these songs. Really interestingly done. And then, like I mentioned, Torre comes in with this blazing guitar solo. Really unique sounding stuff here. It's nothing like this. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Here's where we actually hear some riffs for the first time on the album. And it's pretty heavy. And then Torre comes in and drops in this wonderful flamenco guitar passage. He does that a few times on these albums, which is really cool. And then Macaluso again, adding in all those drum parts. Again, really high in the mix. Landy sounds amazing. Lots of bass on this track. Really good. And this song has like groove for days. Really good stuff. He does like a second flamenco solo. Torre does a second flamenco solo late in the song, surrounded by some wild drumming. Then a cool piano solo comes in. Might be the best song of the album. Really, really good. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Great stuff. Singers at the World's Dawn. That's what you would expect from a prog metal album. Raging prog metal piece. Snarling heavy guitars, Hammond organ, more of those drums, but it's really technical, but it's still quite groovy. And Jorn's roaring vocals are outstanding here. To me, it has kind of like a Dio era Rainbow feel to it in spots. Kind of got that epic feel to it. Really, really cool. I like it. Mother Love kind of hints at a little Dream Theater and Symphony X, but not too much. I think Jorn is great on this track again. Nice use of keyboards. Really intricate drum and guitar parts on this one. Really, really nice. There's a really cool electric guitar solo, and then he does like a flamenco break again, which is just like jaw dragging on the floor late in the song. Really, really good. Center Avenue is one of the couple kind of like typical prog metal style crushers on the album. Jorn is packing lots of venom on this one. He's going for the more Dio kind of delivery. Lots of big riffs. Again, that acrobatic drumming is big up front in the mix. It's such a part of all these songs. And then the closer is Can't Let Go, which is way different than everything else. It's much more atmospheric and moody. You have a sax solo, which really works. You get more of those kind of the more husky Coverdale style vocals from Jorn. Then there's a real nice tasty guitar solo. Towards the end, the song gets a little darker and heavier. Really cool. Nice kind of slow builds track. Really like it. It's a very different progressive metal album. And I don't think there's ever been anything quite like this since this came out. Macaluso's drumming, like I said, is off the charts throughout. You really have to like prominent drumming within a progressive metal context, because you get lots of that here. Do I wish there was a little more riffy type stuff from the guitars and spots? Yeah, but that's just me. We get that on the second album. But you really can't say anything bad about this, and the musicianship is spectacular. Definitely different, very unique, one of a kind. I just think I like the second album just a little bit more, so that's going to be my number one pick. So Burn the Sun, second and final album, 2001. Like I said, depending on where you live, that's what it came out on. This is the Music for Nations version, but Inside Out also released this as well. Like I mentioned before, you got Randy Coven joining as part of the band now. Mats Olausson on keyboards. It opens up with Heal the Waters, which just completely crushes. Already, right from the first track here, we're getting more guitar-heavy type arrangements on this album than on the debut. And again, Jorn singing up a storm. This one's pretty technical, but also pretty melodic. Love the shredding guitar and synth solos, just really, really good. Then you got a song called Torn, which reminds me of the first album. Lots of textures. John's drums up front in the mix. But here you've got Randy Coven's fretless bass, really busy and jumping out at you, kind of giving it like a little bit of a fusion impression or like a Jocko impression. Then you got Burn the Sun, which sounds like a more complex King's accent spot, especially rhythmically speaking. Love the riffing, the playful vocal of Jorn. Totally kick-ass song. And I think Jorn is definitely more aggressive on this album. And he's hitting on more kind of like Dio and Russell Allen's type vocal tones, which is really cool. Doesn't do the Coverdale stuff as much as he does on the first album. Then you got Resurrection, which to me has an 80s Rush feel. Plus there's some cool like fusion style lead guitar work and bass lines, which is kind of neat. Then you got the complex drums, a shredding guitar solo, off to the races, killer stuff. Absolute Zero, pretty catchy, pretty heavy, pretty intricate. Again, the drums and bass are off the charts together. I think Macaluso and Coven work really well together. Nice shredding guitar solo from Torre. Blazing acoustic flamenco guitar. Starts off with some fretless bass on the next track, which is Just a Little. Really nice song. Waking Hour, fun, slow builder of a song. You got Jorn just totally sing it to the heavens, man. What a performance on this particular track. I think probably my favorite vocal performance from him on these two albums. Such a good song. Such a good song. Waking Hour. Check it out. Then you got Noose, which just totally crushes. The riff is just serious and mean. Nice use of keyboards to add that little bit of atmosphere, but it's a heavy number. And then a just completely killer guitar solo from Torre. Really good. Feed the Fire is up next. That's really groovy, catchy, more of a hard rock number. And then you got the brooding I Bleed, which has another total shredder of a solo from Torre, and just absolutely roaring vocal from Jorn Lande. Really great. And the last track is Missing You, which is 9 minutes long. A bunch of these tracks are a little lengthier. You got a couple 6 and 5 minute tracks, for the most part. But Missing You, 9+ minutes, just atmospheric melodic metal. Lots of synths from Mats, and a very emotional vocal from Jorn. And the manic finale of the song is really great. It totally picks up speed and intensity as you get to the back end of the song. This album is longer than the debut by I think about 10 minutes. So you get a little bit extra material on here, 11 tracks as opposed to however many I said on there, with 8 or something like that. But excellent stuff from start to finish. And to me, I just think I like that there's much more of a guitar presence on this album, a little bit more. It's a heavier album. But I do appreciate the kind of intricateness and the rhythmic quality of the first album, and the drums are just out of control. I mean, Macaluso's an absolute beast. So good. But yeah, that's going to be my ranking. So I'm going to go with Burn the Sun as my number 1, and ARK is number 2. But man, they're so close. You could pick either one of them. I may wake up next week and be like, nah, I got to go with this one. So, but whatever. So let us know what you think of these two albums and how you would rank them down in the comments below. If you've never heard them, please go check them out. These are very unique, and a band that it's a shame they didn't stick around for longer, but what are you going to do? Not all these things work out in the long term. So thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below, we got the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, our Cameo page, and the Sea of Tranquility membership options. All are listed down below. Thanks in advance for all your support. It's greatly appreciated, and we'll see you soon here with more stuff. Another ranking show will be coming up next Sunday. I don't quite know what that is yet, but I'll figure it out during the next day or two, right? So stay tuned for that and more coming up here on the channel. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. I am Pete Pardo. Take care. Bye-bye.